Fans, this week on Working Fans Saturday, it's the man they call Dave. Producer Joe sitting in for AJ Strange Brew. That man had to run to the hills after a marathon recording session yesterday. We got some good stuff cooking up that we can't wait for you guys to see. And a list that we're a little less excited to bring to you is the top super heavyweights. And before we went on the air, Dave and I really had a discussion about, first, what is a super heavyweight? And two, there's not many really big guys anymore.
No, there's no Yokozuna. There's no Andre the Giant. It's just not a massive man. First guy I remember that I thought was massive was probably an MLW, former guest of the show, Barrington Hughes.
Barrington Hughes, I would have included him if he had been more active lately.
Sure. Yeah.
He hasn't been, and I was thinking, I'm like, shit, there's not really many other people like Barrington Hughes. Now, I'll give you my list just to give you an idea of where I went with it. The first person I put down was Jonah Rock.
Okay. Oh, good one. Good one.
And then I put down Tyrus. Even though he hasn't been as super active lately, he has been a force on NWA. Yeah, we miss our favorite super heavyweight, AJ Strange Brew, as well. And then after I had Jonah Rock, Tyrus, I included Juicy Finau, who's that guy in GCW. He teamed with Jacob Fatu against Starboy Charlie and Chris Dickinson recently. And then, of course, that led me to adding Jacob Fatu to my list. And then I was struggling to come up with a fifth one. And, Randy here says Keith Lee. I should have thought of that. I included Jeff Cobb because I had just watched MLW War Chamber. I mean, the shit's on the internet now, so fuck a spoiler alert. He comes out in the Matanza getup.
Yeah.
And then just drops it before he goes to the ring. Coming down to the ring is Jeff Cobb. Yeah, and I was like, holy shit, like, this is what I look for in pro wrestling.
Yeah, it was fucking cool. I got
even without the jumpsuit, he's super wide and just super thick.
Yeah, you still love my thunder. I got that in my stories. I got that in my list. All right, so I'll give you my top 5 super heavyweights. Like you, I was fresh off the MLW War Chamber this week, so the very first 2 names that came on my list, Jacob Fatu and Jeff Cobb. I thought it was pretty cool how he did it, you know, with Matanza coming out there. And he's got, like, you know, the gimmick and we're going for Lucha Underground. Then he takes it off. And it's like, no, it's Jeff Cobb. And it's like, okay, which is super cool. Yeah, I got Keith Lee. Randy, I didn't forget him either. Motherfucker hasn't been, like, super active lately, but Bearcat will be back. I love you, Bearcat. Walter, another guy that's been out for a while since he lost that match to Dragunov. I think he did do the European tour with Cesaro recently. To me, one of the great super heavyweights. I put Brock Lesnar down. At the end of the day, he's the last.
I don't know how I didn't think of him.
He's a big attraction. He's not very active. And if you're not, like, following WWE or think about WWE a lot, I could see where he kind of gets off the radar. Randy Cross is a good one, too.
Now, Randy, before we move on from the top 5 of super heavyweights, give us your top 5 list while we're waiting. And, you know, we'll kill some time before we move on to our top 5 of the week. But
yeah, PCO would have been a good one, too.
Oh, he is another good one. He's one of those guys been in Ring of Honor, so he didn't even, like, fully come to mind.
You know, and another guy who's, I think, you know, he's more of the bodyguard role, but he's been wrestling a little more. I think he's got the potential. Wardlow, you know.
Yeah, he's another good one.
He does the F5 or F10 as he calls it. He has the knockout move, drops you on his knee. He's agile. You know, he's a guy who can think down the road if pushed right. On that vein, Brian Cage. Obviously a big jacked up guy.
There's another thick guy.
Yeah.
Will Hobbs.
Yeah, Will Hobbs, absolutely.
Of course, now we're coming up with all these names while
right.
Like, we're making these lists like, what is a super heavyweight?
I know. He's trying to put some
here we go.
Oh, you got it. Keith Lee, Killer Cross, PCO, Walter, and Wardlow. Yeah. So
that's not a bad list there. And wrestling's really moved away from the bigger guys, even though it seems like Vince McMahon wants to go back towards that.
Yeah.
It's more of really like a cruiserweight almost type sport.
Ironically,
I love.
They got rid of Hit Row and that had Top Dollar in it. And Top Dollar, although young, like, you figured he would check off all the boxes. Huge guy, you know, could talk. They had him on that A&E thing there. But there was a rumor out coming from, you know, who knows how true it is that I want to say Meltzer reported it, that he was difficult to deal with. Yeah. But if he was difficult to deal with, the rest of the guys are gone.
Talking about our top 5 of the week, I'm going to start with mine. I got to start with Full Gear. It was a bitch of a viewing experience last week because we were trying to watch it on Fire Stick, and apparently that's a problem. But once we got into the show, I thought the show was amazing. Ended with Hangman Page winning the title. There we go. Randy's got some memories. And with Hangman Page, what's that?
98?
98.
Oh, okay. So that was with Taker Mankind, Hell in a Cell.
Oh, yeah.
I watched that with AJ that night, by the way, too. So, little fun fact, all the working fans were out watching that pay-per-view that night.
Everyone coming around. Bleacher Report app. It's definitely a problem. And one of the biggest problems with it is they made a new Bleacher Report app. So on some things, it was Bleacher Report Live before. Now it's just plain Bleacher Report. Right. It shows up on my Fire Stick as two different Bleacher Report apps that look the same. So kind of fuck Bleacher Report. But in the end, finally got to watch the show. I thought it was great, like I said. Second on my list was MLW War Chamber. We got into it a little bit earlier with Jeff Cobb coming out like Matanza. And overall, I thought it was just a great show. I look forward to everything MLW does. For instance, they do an annual Thanksgiving show that I can't wait to see. Third on my top 5 of the week. And this one isn't like a top 5 favorite things. This is a news item. It's more the WWE releases. You had John Morrison, the rest of Hit Row, like you said, Jackson Riker, and a few other people. I don't remember all the names, but it's just surprising the amount of people they've cut over the last 2 years. Some people you can understand because they've been with them for a while, never made it to TV. But some people are big acts featured almost weekly on their shows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had WWE cuts on mine. Just to piggyback off of that a little bit, Joe, Drake Maverick in particular was the name you didn't mention, but I mentioned him because he put out a video almost instantly. And if you remember, Drake got cut. He was one of the first cuts last year. I want to say like when the Good Brothers got cut and Drake put out that video and Drake like basically saved his job. And this time you see Drake almost in a similar thing. Might have even been the same video, except for this time he films like himself coming to him, talk himself and saying, hey, snap out of it. We've been here before. We know what we're doing. Everything they've ever given you, you turn to gold. You want to be a manager? You make it gold. They want you to chase around a belt 24/7. You make it gold. He says they want you he says they fired you and you made it gold. He said, so you're ready. Let's go out there and get it. And I thought, fucking brilliant. John Cena even like retweeted it like early on when this happened. And, you know, obviously still works with WWE. And he said, follow this brilliant performer. And, you know, this is gold. I thought, what can you say?
Yeah, 100%. Now, number 4 on my top 5 of the list this week, we recorded our first wrestling commentary for a while for Knockout Wrestling Vengeance Part 1. I just got the file in my messenger today, so I will see when we can post it. It was fun to get back in the booth and actually try doing that again because it had been a little while. We went away from Knockout. We came back. And it's fun to get those opportunities. Like you said, it's not something we would have thought that we would have done in the beginning. But now that we're doing it, it's like, God, let us get in. Let us get another opportunity, another rep at it.
Absolutely. Even if it's, you know, it's not always easy. We got a lot on our plates, but it's fun to get in there. And, you know, I mean, come on. I mean, we grew up watching pro wrestling and announcers like Jim Ross, Tony Schiavone, and even a little bit of Gordon Soley when I was growing up. I mean, that's stuff we grew up on. So.
And it's wild, yeah, that we can say like that's on our resume somewhere, like pro wrestling commentator, no matter how low level.
Damn
and
right.
my number 5 of the week was the Bryan Danielson heel tendencies in that promo and then in that match. Like such a good heel. And I hope we get to see that from him because he's just it reminds me of those old Ring of Honor days, and I love it.
Absolutely. And piggyback, like I already gave my WWE cuts because you had that either. I also have Hangman Danielson confrontation. I didn't put down Full Gear because technically it was on a Saturday. So even though I guess that would count, but I didn't go there. So we'll just keep it going. I had the Hangman Danielson confrontation. This guy's brilliant. He's absolutely a fantastic worker. I don't even know how, like, he was awesome in WWE too. I don't want to take away because everybody talks about how great he is now, but he was really good in WWE too. He's actually one of the best, maybe the best. And now he's even better. So let's put that in perspective, okay? Like, he is that freaking good. And that's in ring we're talking about. Now let's go back to when he was at WWE for a minute, when this guy was doing the vegan gimmick and he was a heel and he had this vegan belt. It was amazing. He showed signs of brilliance
I
there.
love that, the hempen wood belt.
Oh my God. It's awesome. And now here he is. He's so smart. AEW, passionate fan base. What does he do to get these guys pissed off? He just makes a little comment like, I guess some people like to take time and celebrate after they win the world title. After I won my world title at WrestleMania, a little emphasis on WrestleMania. Immediately before he even finishes, the crowd's got the red ass. They're pissed. He's like, I wrestled the next night. And then he's like, oh yeah, Virginia likes to boo hard work. And then he starts to see that smile on his face where he's just enjoying it. I also want to put down, because I thought that Dynamite was really good, CM Punk MJF confrontation as well. It wasn't quite as good to me as Hangman Danielson, but it was also an awesome thing. Like, okay, now we're going to get MJF versus CM Punk. And they didn't overkill it. He basically came out. He refused to shake MJF's hand, and then he left. And it was a nice little tease. Like, we're not even going to, give you, really, you're just going to get us a little smidgen. You know what you guys are getting. We know you're starving for it.
I hope they paid that off at the next pay-per-view so we get that much of a long draw out on that angle.
Agreed. I agree. Let's make it. Take your time. Slow burn, baby. I also have Jeff Cobb in the War Chamber. So that was a nice surprise to see him come out the way they did it, like Joe talked earlier about. Absolutely awesome. Big fan of Jeff Cobb. I like the end of this where Jacob Fatu ends up beating the other members up. It's totally worth watching. It's a great physical match. Kind of wondering where Joseph Samuel is. I don't know if he's retiring or if he was injured, but I kind of missed him in this thing. Really only a little thing, but I enjoyed this a lot. And I'm also going to throw one out for Impact this week because they had their main event, Minoru Suzuki versus Josh Alexander. And that is a great match. Josh Alexander was also on Fight in the Valley. I'm blanking out on who he wrestled, but he had a good match on there too. You might have remembered.
I want to say that was Yuya Uemura because he opened the thing, and Uemura is a young lion on Excursion, and the him versus Alexander matchup was a perfect fit.
It was, and that was good. This match with Suzuki.
Shit, how did that Battle in the Valley card not make it to one of our lists?
It was good. I watched it all week. It took me a long time because I was super busy with the podcast and so much wrestling this week, but it held my interest. Every day I would go back and I'm like, all right, where am I? And I'd start watching stuff because
look at that. Randy's got the breaking news, and Tom Lawler is done with MLW.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I knew Tom Lawler was done. Yeah, Joseph had fight problems. All right. That's interesting to know because I think he is such a great part of that package with Joseph Fatu. And I really liked them together. And Joseph Fatu to me, not just Jacob Fatu, but Joseph Samuel, rather. Jacob Fatu is amazing. Like, he is a monster, super heavyweight, super athletic. But Joseph Samuel, to me, is just this classic, old school heel, shades of the original Sheik throwing fireballs at people. Really knows how to get heat. We've seen him really piss off people before. Big fan of his.
If you remember the second Battle Riot for MLW, they came into the ring and appeared to pour gasoline onto, I can't remember who they had down, and made it look like they were going to light him on fire. Right. I remember that in particular because I was front row going, holy fuck. Like, obviously they're not going to light him on fire, but they are doing their best to make this look real.
Yeah.
Fatu could turn face. He really was I feel like he's the face of that company right now. Like, Hammerstone's a good champion.
Right.
But I feel like Fatu, he just has more that menacing look and just that image that you can put on MLW.
Yeah, I think he could be almost the special attraction role for them right now. Like, keep the belt on Hammerstone, and Jacob Fatu almost doesn't even need it. Like, when you go to MLW, if you follow MLW, you like MLW, you know about Jacob Fatu.